My daughter's voice tore through the hallway before I even opened my eyes that morning. "Pay rent, old man, or get out." That was the first thing I heard on what became the last day I ever lived under the same roof as her. My name is Raphael. I am 67 years old, and I never thought my own flesh and blood would speak to me like I was a stray dog on her porch. But there I was, sitting at the kitchen table in a small town outside Riverside, holding a mug of reheated coffee, when my daughter Lena slammed an envelope down hard enough to rattle the salt shaker. The envelope wasn't even mine. It was addressed to her, but apparently everything in this house was a weapon when she needed one. Before I tell you what happened next, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you are watching from. It helps more than you know. The envelope slid across the table and hit my hand. Her husband Tariq stood behind her, arms crossed, shirt wrinkled, trying his hardest to look intimidating. He never managed to pull it off. A man who spent more time arguing with teenagers on video games than working a real job never did. "That's the water bill," Lena said, her voice sharp and practiced. "You used almost all of it this month. We talked about this." "We?" I repeated quietly. "When did we talk about anything?" "You know what she means," Tariq said. "You need to pay your part if you want to keep living here." My part. My part in the house I had bought. The house I maintained. The house where I raised Lena after her mother passed away. I stared at her. She had her arms folded across her chest, her new manicure gleaming red and gold. Last week she insisted she was behind on her car payments, but the nails alone cost what groceries used to cost for an entire week. "I told you," I said, keeping my tone steady. "I already handled last month's bills." "That's the problem," she snapped. "You think handling a few bills gives you the right to act like this is your place." "It is my place," I said, "legally and literally." "You don't get it," she shouted back, her eyes flashing the way they always did when she felt cornered. "You're a guest who eats, sleeps, and showers like you don't care about anyone else. A guest. In the home I restored with my own hands. In the home where her childhood drawings still hung in the hallway, untouched for decades. I felt something inside me shift, a slow, cold realization. This wasn't stress. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was contempt. The kind that grows quietly like mold until suddenly it covers the entire wall. "What do you want from me, Lena?" I asked. She took one step closer, chin lifted. $5,000 a month, she said. "Rent. Paid on the first, or you can pack up and get out." I didn't even feel the sting. It was too absurd. Too rehearsed, like she had practiced the line in the mirror. "You want me," I said slowly, "to pay rent to live in my own house?" At that, Tariq smiled. That oily, triumphant curl of the lips I had seen too many times. The smile of a man who thought he finally had leverage. "It's fair," he said. "The market's expensive. You should contribute. Really contribute." I looked at both of them. My daughter, who once cried into my shoulder when she lost her first job. Her husband, who once promised me he would take care of her while borrowing money behind her back. They truly believed I had nowhere to go. They truly believed I was trapped. That was the moment, the exact second when I decided I was done playing the fool. Because what they didn't know, what I never told anyone, was that for 20 years I had been quietly investing the life insurance money from Lena's mother, bit by bit. Carefully, patiently, and the total now sat at a little over $7 million. They thought they were cornering an old man. In reality, they were lighting a fuse they could not put out. I stood up, slid the chair back, and nodded once. "Understood," I said. "If rent is what you want, then rent is what you'll get." Their smiles widened. They thought they had won. They had no idea that what came next would turn both of their lives upside down. What they didn't know was that I had already made a decision that morning, and by the time they discovered it, it would be far too late. The rest of the day passed like I was walking through fog. Slow, heavy, every sound muffled. I could still hear Lena's words echoing in my chest. $5,000 or get out. She had said it so casually, like she was telling me to pick up milk from the store. A line rehearsed, a line prepared, a line she knew would cut deep. But I didn't argue. I didn't fight. I didn't raise my voice. That alone unsettled them. By late afternoon, Tariq's mood had changed. He kept peeking into the living room, waiting for me to explode or plead or negotiate. He expected the old version of me, the version who forgave too quickly and gave too much. Instead, I sat quietly in my old armchair, the one they hated, the one I refused to throw away. Around 6, Lena came into the room, arms crossed. "I hope you understand, Dad. We're not doing this to be cruel. We're just trying to have a stable life. A stable life. In a house they didn't own, paid for by a man they were trying to evict." "You explained it clearly," I replied. $5,000 the first of the month." She nodded, relieved. Too relieved. Then she said something unexpected, almost careless. "And honestly, Dad, we thought you'd be more mature about it." Mature? At 67, apparently, I still needed lessons from a woman half my age who had never held a job for longer than a year. The fog in my mind began to clear. Not anger. Focus. I waited until they went to bed. Tariq's footsteps were heavy, his voice loud behind their door. He complained. He always complained. About me, about life, about every inconvenience that didn't go his way. At exactly 11 o'clock, when the house was quiet, I went to the garage. The garage was the only place they rarely entered. Tariq didn't like dusty spaces, and Lena always said the paint smell made her head hurt, which worked well for me. There, behind an old shelf of tools, was a steel-latched case that had been untouched for years. Not the $7 million. That was never stored in cash, never hidden physically. No, this case held something else. The paperwork for the house, the insurance files, and a folder of financial documents from long before Lena had married Tariq. The real proof of ownership. The real assurances. The trail that led to the investments no one in my family knew existed. I pulled it out, cleaned off a layer of dust, and sat on the small wooden bench. The paperwork looked almost new. The signatures still dark. The stamps still crisp. Before Lena married Tariq, she was different. Thoughtful. Soft. A little stubborn like her mother, but with a good heart. But something changed once Tariq came into the picture. Not overnight, but slowly. The first small lie. The first loan I repaid quietly. The first time I noticed she hesitated before telling me the truth. Greed doesn't come loud. It whispers first. As I flipped through the file, I found the original deed to the property. My name, my signature, my money, all of it indisputable. And the last page, a fading yellow sticky note in my wife's handwriting, still sat attached to the corner. "Raf, if anything ever happens, trust yourself. You're smarter than you think." I pressed my thumb against my wife's handwriting, feeling the indent of the ink. She had been gone for 8 years, and yet it felt like she was sitting beside me. She would have known how to handle this. She always did. At that moment, my phone vibrated. A message from Lena. "Can you come upstairs tomorrow morning? Tariq wants to talk about the rent schedule so we can get everything official." Official. That word told me everything. This wasn't just about rent. Tariq wanted something in writing, something binding, something he could use later, probably to leverage the house for loans or to establish residency rights. They knew exactly what they were doing. I typed back one sentence, "We'll talk tomorrow." Then I placed the files back in the case, locked it, and slid it under a tarp in the corner. Tomorrow I would give them exactly what they asked for, but not in the way they expected. Because while they were busy scheming about $5,000, I was preparing to move $7 million worth of silence right into their path. The next morning, Tariq tried to negotiate with me, and that conversation revealed a truth even uglier than I imagined. Tariq woke up earlier than usual the next morning. I could hear him in the kitchen before the sun even rose, banging drawers, moving chairs, pacing like a man trying to talk himself into courage. I took my time coming downstairs. When a man wants to corner you, the fastest way to unsettle him is to walk in slowly. Calm, steady, unbothered. He was sitting at the small wooden table when I entered, elbows on the surface, hands clasped, a fake seriousness on his face. Lena stood behind him, trying to look firm, but she kept chewing the inside of her cheek, something she'd done since she was a child whenever she was lying. "Morning," I said, grabbing a glass of water. Tariq tightened his jaw. "Raf, we need to go over some details. You know, for the rent situation." I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down. "I'm listening." He nodded once, the way men do when they think they're about to deliver something important. "So we were talking," he began, gesturing vaguely toward Lena, and we realized we should probably make it official. You know, signed, dated, agreed upon. That way there's no confusion later. Confusion about what? I asked. About you paying $5,000 every month, he replied. We don't want misunderstandings. You're getting older, Raf. Memory slips. Bills pile up. It's better for everyone if we keep a record. I almost laughed, not loudly. Just a small breath at the back of my throat. Ah, I said. A contract. Exactly, Tariq said, relieved. You get it. But he didn't stop there. He produced a thin folder from his backpack. My backpack, technically, and slid it toward me. The folder was new, the kind office supply stores sell in packs of 10. What's this? I asked, though I already knew. Nothing serious, he said quickly. Just a simple agreement. Rent amount, due date, basic terms. Honestly, Raf, this protects you too. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. What basic terms? I said, keeping my voice mild. Lena finally stepped forward. Dad, it would also document that we're the primary occupants, just normal legal stuff. So if anything happens to you, there won't be confusion or, I asked, or issues with the house. She finished quietly. There it was. Slipped into the middle of a sentence, softened, wrapped in concern. Tariq jumped back in. Look, Raf, you're in your late 60s. Things happen. We just want to make sure the house stays in the family, in the part of the family living here. He didn't even flinch when he said it. I took another sip of water. Tariq, I said, are you asking me to sign something that gives you residency rights? He hesitated, only for a fraction of a second. But I saw it. A small crack. A brief flicker of panic. Well, I mean, it's standard, he muttered. And, I said, would this document allow you to, I don't know, use the house as collateral for a loan someday? Lena sucked in a breath. Tariq's eyes twitched. Why would you even ask that? Lena snapped. Because, I said slowly, I've been around long enough to recognize when someone's rehearsing a speech. Tariq opened his mouth, but I raised a hand. Stop, I said. Let's not pretend this is about fairness. This contract has nothing to do with rent and everything to do with leverage. You want my signature. You need it. And you need it soon. Tariq stared at me like I'd slapped him. Lena's face turned pale. I leaned back in the chair. Tell me the real reason, I said. Silence. Tariq looked at Lena. Lena looked at the floor. Neither spoke. And that told me everything. I stood up slowly, grabbed the contract folder and tapped it against my palm. You made one mistake, I said. You assumed I am broke. You assumed I am desperate. You assumed I am dependent on you. They said nothing. You gave me 10 days, I continued. 10 days to decide whether I want to pay rent or get out. Tariq swallowed hard. And I've decided, I said. Their eyes lit up, hopeful, greedy, expectant, but I wasn't finished. But before I give you my answer, I said, I want to make a call first, just one call. After that, I'll tell you exactly what comes next. I walked away and left them sitting there, frozen, panicked, whispering to each other like two thieves who suddenly realized the safe they tried to crack belonged to the wrong man, because they had no idea who I was calling, and they definitely didn't know what that call would set in motion. So when I made that call, the person on the other end revealed a truth that changed everything, and it wasn't about me. I stepped out onto the small back porch, the one place in the house where the air still felt like mine. The sun was just beginning to rise over the rooftops of Riverside Heights, turning the fences gold and making the dew on the grass shimmer. It used to be peaceful back here. Used to be. I took out my phone and scrolled past Lena's name, past Tariq's name, past every number I had memorized over the years. I stopped on a contact labeled Dr. Mendez, not a medical doctor, not that kind of Mendez. A financial forensic consultant, someone I met years ago when I helped rebuild part of his office after a fire. We talked for hours back then. He about assets and tracing money, me about construction and building foundations. Foundations. Funny how the metaphor fit now. I pressed call. He picked up on the second ring. Raphael? It's been a long time. Too long, I replied. I need to ask you something, and I need honesty. I can do honesty, he said. What's going on? I leaned against the railing and looked through the kitchen window. I could see Lena and Tariq moving around, whispering, trying not to look like they were watching me. "Tell me," I said quietly, "what does it usually mean when someone suddenly wants an older family member to sign residency papers, rent agreements, or anything involving a house deed?" There was a pause on the line, the kind that comes from someone choosing their words carefully. "Well," he said, "it generally means two things. Either they're preparing for an eventual inheritance, or they're planning to leverage the property financially. And if they're rushing, it usually means debt. Big debt. Debt." The word sat heavy in my stomach. "What kind of debt pushes people to try something like that?" I asked. He sighed. "The kind that could ruin them. The kind that makes people desperate, irrational. The kind people try to cover up until the last second." I closed my eyes. It was exactly what I suspected. "Raphael," he added, voice lowering, "are you safe?" I let the question hang. Was I safe? Physically, yes. Emotionally, son, that part was gone the moment Lena called me old man like I was nothing more than a tenant. "I'm safe," I said, "but I need information." Quietly. "I can look into publicly accessible financial records," he said. "Credit, civil judgments, liens, anything filed, but I can't break laws." "I'm not asking you to," I replied. "Just tell me what can be known through legal channels. I'll start today. Give me 24 hours. I thanked him and hung up. But as soon as I turned back toward the house, Lena appeared at the sliding door, trying to look casual. "Dad, everything okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just making the call I needed." She forced a smile. The kind children make when they're caught doing something wrong but hope the adult didn't actually see it. "That's good," she said. "Tariq and I were thinking, after breakfast, maybe we could go over the contract again. Just to finalize things." "Finalize?" I simply nodded. "Later," I said. "I'm taking a walk." I walked across the yard, down the street, and out toward the park where the pathways wrapped around a small lake. I needed the space, needed to breathe, needed to think where they couldn't hear me. Every step reminded me of how much had changed, how fast greed can age a person, how quickly love can rot when someone sees you as a wallet instead of a father. As I circled the water, the pieces fell into place. Their behavior, their panic, their urgency. They weren't just trying to secure rent, they were trying to secure control. And to secure control, they needed one thing: my signature. But then, as I walked past a bench facing the water, something stopped me. Something so strange it felt like a sign. A man I'd never seen before, mid-40s, wearing a faded ball cap, stood up as I approached and spoke under his breath. "You're Raphael." I froze. "Yes." He looked around nervously. "I was told to come find you. Someone paid me to deliver a message." "From who?" He lifted the brim of his hat and said quietly, "From someone who knows what your daughter and her husband have been hiding." My heart thudded once, slow and heavy. "What message?" He reached into his jacket pocket and handed me a plain white envelope. "Open it alone," he said, "and be careful. You're not dealing with what you think you're dealing with." Before I could ask another question, he walked away. Fast, purposeful, disappearing down the path as if he had practiced the escape. I stood there alone, holding the envelope, feeling the wind shift. This wasn't just a family problem anymore. When I opened that envelope, what I found inside made me realize just how deep the betrayal went, and who else was involved. I waited until I was alone on a bench under a jacaranda tree before opening the envelope. It felt too light to be money, too stiff to be something like a photograph. Inside was a single sheet of paper folded twice, and when I opened it, I didn't understand what I was seeing at first. It was a bank statement, not mine, not Lena's, not anything that belonged to this household. It was Tariq's, a checking account from a small credit union in a town I'd never even heard of. Vista Paloma Credit Union. The balance at the top made my stomach twist. Negative $38,000. Below that, a list of overdraft fees so long it looked like a grocery receipt. Then a series of suspicious transfers labeled loan reimbursement, miscellaneous consulting fees, and one that made the hairs on the back of my neck rise. Settlement arrangement. Pending investigation. I stared at the words. Pending investigation. The man who handed me the envelope wasn't joking. This wasn't just debt. This wasn't just irresponsibility. Something was happening behind closed doors. Something ugly. Something heavy enough that he didn't want his own bank to know what he was doing. I folded the paper and placed it back inside the envelope, tucking it into my jacket. I didn't walk home. I marched home. When I stepped through the front door, I found Lena and Tariq in the living room on opposite ends of the couch. They looked like they'd been arguing. Their eyes snapped up the second they saw me. "Dad, there you are," Lena said. We were worried. Worried. They use that word a lot these days, never meant it. "I took a walk," I said, "cleared my mind." Tariq gave me a forced smile, the kind of smile someone teaches themselves in the mirror. "So," he said, "did you think about the contract?" I did. Both of them leaned forward. "And?" Lena asked. "I have a question first," I replied. "Tariq, how many bank accounts do you have?" The color drained from his face so fast it was like someone unplugged him. "What?" he said, voice cracking slightly. "I found something," I said calmly. "Something you should have told me." I didn't take the envelope out yet. I wanted to see his reaction first. Tariq swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing like he was trying to force down a lie before it slipped out. I don't know what you're talking about," he stammered. "I have one account. Just one." Lena folded her arms. "He does, Dad. Stop interrogating him." Interrogating. Interesting choice of word. "Tariq," I said, "you ever heard of Vista Paloma Credit Union?" He flinched so hard his knee hit the table. I have no idea what that is." But Lena looked at him sharply. She didn't say anything, but she knew that twitch was a tell. So did I. I set the envelope on the coffee table gently, like placing a delicate piece of glass between us. "Open it," I said. Neither moved. "Go on." Lena snatched the envelope first, eager to prove I was being dramatic. But when she unfolded the paper, her eyes widened. Her lips parted, but sound refused to come out. She looked at Tariq. "Tariq, what is this?" He stood up sharply. "Where did you get that?" He snapped at me. "Who gave that to you?" "A stranger," I replied evenly. "Someone who said he was paid to warn me." "Paid by who?" Lena demanded, turning on her husband. Tariq sat down and buried his head in his hands. "I can explain," he whispered. "You better," Lena hissed, "because this statement says you're under investigation." He looked up, eyes red, breathing fast. "I was going to fix it. I just needed time," he said. "That's why I needed the rent. That's why we needed the contract. I was going to take out a loan on the house and cover everything before it got worse." A loan on the house, just like I thought, exactly like I suspected. "Why didn't you tell me?" Lena demanded. "Because," he said, looking at me, "your father would never have signed anything if he knew." "You're right," I said. "I wouldn't." The house went silent. The kind of silence that makes people realize the ground beneath them is shifting. Lena sank slowly into the armchair, breathing unevenly. "Tariq," she whispered, "how deep are you in?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. I leaned back and folded my hands calmly. "I think," I said, "it's time we all stop pretending." Their heads snapped toward me. "You need money," I continued. "A lot of it. Fast. And you thought I was the solution." Neither spoke. The truth was too loud to ignore. "And now," I said, "I know exactly how desperate you are." Lena whispered, "Dad, please, don't make this worse." But what she didn't know was that things were about to get much worse. Not because of me, but because the person who sent that envelope wasn't done with us yet. The next message I received revealed who else was watching them, and why that person wanted me to act before it was too late. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. The house felt different now. Not unsafe exactly, but unstable, like walking on a wooden floor that creaks in a new spot and makes you wonder what's shifting underneath. It was well past midnight when I finally stepped outside for air. The sky over Riverside Heights was cloudy, the streetlights giving the night a faint amber glow. I didn't bring the envelope with me. It was tucked safely inside my jacket, zipped in tight. But I couldn't stop replaying the stranger's words. "You're not dealing with what you think you're dealing with." What else could be worse than a son-in-law drowning in debt and dragging my daughter down with him? I found my answer the next morning. My phone buzzed at 9. A text from an unknown number. No greeting, no introduction. Just a single sentence. "Check your mailbox before they wake up." I walked outside slowly, scanning the street out of habit, but the neighborhood was still, quiet, nothing unusual. I opened the mailbox. Inside was another envelope, identical to the first, plain white, no stamp, no handwriting, just placed there. Someone had been close enough to my house to put it inside. I brought it inside and locked the door behind me before opening it. This time, the paper inside wasn't a bank statement. It was 2 printed screenshots. Grainy, but clear enough. One was from an email thread, the other from a digital agreement. The subject line of the email made my blood run cold. Urgent. Regarding Tariq's breach and repayment plan. Below it, if repayment is not completed by the end of this month, we will escalate to legal action. You have one final extension. Do not involve third parties. Do not attempt to move assets. We are monitoring activity. The second screenshot was worse. A digital signature belonging to Tariq on a document titled Repayment Compliance Agreement, Internal Disciplinary Review, and beneath that, Primary Consequence of Default, Prosecution. The room went silent around me. This wasn't credit card debt. This wasn't a loan gone bad. This wasn't simple foolishness. This was criminal, and Tariq wasn't just hiding it. He was trying to drag my daughter and my house into the mess. I sat down slowly at the kitchen table. My hand trembled, not from fear, but from something colder. Clarity. Tariq was not just desperate, he was cornered, and he was willing to risk everything, including my daughter, to save himself. I looked toward their bedroom, door at the end of the hall. They were still asleep, both of them unaware of the pieces falling into place. My phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. You need to act before they do. He's already looking for another way out. I typed back, "Who are you?" No reply. No typing dots, no read receipt, just a blank screen. I stepped into the living room and stared out the window. My mind raced through every possibility. Who would know this much? Who would care? Who would risk sharing it? A co-worker from his job? A neighbor? A friend he owed money to? Someone he scammed? Someone who wanted him punished? Whoever it was, they seemed to know more about Tariq than Tariq knew about himself. I spent the rest of the morning in silence, pacing, replaying every moment of the past week. The raised voices, the rushed conversations, the sudden interest in helping me manage the house. They didn't want rent. Rent was the bait. They wanted access. Access to the property. Access to my signature. Access to leverage something they couldn't get approved for otherwise. At around 11, I heard their bedroom door open. Footsteps. Then Lena appeared in the hallway, eyes puffy, hair pulled back in a quick, messy bun. "Dad?" she said softly. I hid the envelope under my arm before she saw it. "Yes?" She came to the table and sat across from me. "Tariq told me everything," she said. "About the debt, about the investigation, about the extensions." She looked ashamed, or at least she tried to. "I didn't know, Dad, I swear. I didn't know how bad it was." "You still tried to get me to sign," I said quietly. She flinched. We were scared," she whispered. "We thought, if we could get ahead of it, if we could just get one loan approved." "One loan," I repeated. "Against my house." She didn't deny it. She just kept looking down like the floor might save her. "Dad, please," she said. "He's made mistakes, but he's trying. We just need a little help." I looked at her, really looked at her. The woman she had become, the fear in her eyes, the denial still lingering like smoke. And all I could think was, this is no longer about who needs help. This is about who needs to be stopped. That same afternoon, I got one more message, and it revealed exactly why the sender wanted Tariq nowhere near my house. The message came at exactly 3:28 in the afternoon. Not a call, not a text. It was a short voice note from the same unknown number. Only 3 seconds long. A single sentence. "He's looking for buyers." Buyers? I replayed the message 3 times, trying to decipher its meaning. Tariq didn't own anything worth selling. Certainly nothing substantial enough to resolve the debt that hovered over him like a black cloud. Then it hit me. Buyers could mean one thing. Not a house buyer, not a car buyer. A paper buyer. Someone willing to buy forged signatures, fake agreements, quick documentation. Someone who could help Tariq fabricate a path to liquidity he didn't legally have. Someone who could help him turn my property into a lifeline. I felt my stomach twist. This wasn't just desperation anymore. This was escalation. I walked into the kitchen, gripping the phone so tightly my knuckles went pale. Lena sat at the counter, sipping coffee, pretending to scroll through her phone, pretending not to watch me. "Who was that?" she asked casually. "Wrong number," I lied. She didn't believe me. I didn't care. Tariq emerged from the hallway a moment later, his face washed and hair combed. Making an effort for once. That alone was suspicious. "Raf," he said, "you got a minute?" "Not right now," I replied. "It's important." "Everything's important today," I said calmly. He bristled at that, but kept walking toward me. I could feel the tension radiating off him, a tight energy like a man trying to solve a puzzle with pieces missing. "I just wanted to say," he began, "I'm sorry things got heated yesterday. Lena and I didn't mean to pressure you. We're trying to manage things responsibly." "By hiding an investigation?" I asked. His breath caught. "Lena told you?" he whispered, shooting her a sharp glare. "She told me part of it," I said. "The rest, I figured out on my own." Tariq swallowed hard. "Look, Raphael," I corrected. He blinked. "I'm not calling you by a nickname," I said. "Not anymore." It was subtle, but his expression cracked. A small fracture of realization. The authority in the house had shifted. "Fine," he muttered. "Raphael, I'm handling things. I just need some time." "You've had time," I replied. "What you really need is honesty." Lena stood up abruptly. "Dad, please," she said, voice trembling. "We're not monsters, we're just scared." "Fear doesn't justify theft," I said, "or manipulation, or deceit." Her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the girl she used to be, the one who used to hug me at the airport when I returned from jobs out of town, the one who used to bring me burnt pancakes on Father's Day. But that girl had grown into a woman who hid truths, protected bad choices, and kept secrets from the only person who ever protected her without asking for anything back. "Dad," she whispered, "we didn't want to hurt you." "I know," I said softly, "but intention doesn't erase impact." Tariq ran a hand through his hair, panic creeping into his voice. "I can fix this," he insisted. "I almost have a solution." I stared at him. "You mean you almost have someone willing to buy forged paperwork?" I said. "Someone willing to help you turn this house into collateral you don't own?" His face went white. How do you—" But he didn't finish the question, because he realized what that meant. Someone was telling me everything. Someone close enough to know his movements, close enough to know his communications, close enough to know his plans. The panic in his eyes deepened. "I don't know who's feeding you this garbage," he said, "but it's wrong." "It's not garbage," I said, "and it matches your behavior perfectly." Tariq turned to Lena, desperation sharpening his voice. "Lena, say something. He's twisting everything." But Lena didn't move. She didn't defend him. She didn't glare at me. She simply whispered, "Tariq, are you in danger?" Silence. Long, heavy, crushing. Then Tariq whispered the truth, barely audible. "Yes." The air left the room. "What kind of danger?" I asked quietly. He didn't answer immediately. He stared at the floor as if the tiles might swallow him. Finally, he said 5 words that made everything click into place. "They're not going to wait." My pulse slowed. The stranger's messages, the warnings, the urgency. This wasn't about repossession. It wasn't about debt collectors. It wasn't even about prosecution. The people Tariq owed weren't the kind that send paperwork. They were the kind that send warnings. And then, if the warnings don't work, they send something else. That night, someone came to the house, not for me, but for Tariq, and what happened next forced me to make the final decision. Night falls differently when danger is near. Quieter, sharper, like every sound is trying to warn you of something. By the time the sun dipped behind the rooftops of Riverside Heights, I could feel something shifting in the air, a pressure, a weight, a kind of stillness I hadn't felt since the days when I worked construction night shifts and heard coyotes stalking behind the fences. I sat in the living room with only one lamp on. Tariq paced the hallway like a man expecting a verdict. Lena sat on the couch, hands buried in her hair, whispering to herself in fragments. I didn't speak. I didn't comfort. Not anymore. Around 9, a car slowed in front of the house. Not a neighbor. not someone lost. Someone who knew exactly where they were going. The headlights stayed off. The engine idled. And then, the engine cut. Tariq froze mid-step. Lena looked up, her breath catching. Then, a knock. Not frantic, not polite. A single, heavy, deliberate knock. Boom. I stood slowly. "Do not open that door," I said. Tariq hesitated, torn between pride and terror. But when the second knock came, heavier this time, he flinched so hard he nearly stumbled. "Stay here," I told him again. He didn't argue. I walked toward the door and stood to the side, not directly in front of it. Old habit, old instinct, learned long ago. Then a voice came through the wood. "Open up. We're not here for the old man." Lena gasped quietly. Tariq's knees buckled. I remained silent. "We know he's in there," the voice continued, "and we're not leaving without him." Tariq whispered so faintly it was barely sound. "They found me." Of course they had. People like that always do. The door was still intact, still locked, but I knew it wouldn't hold if they wanted inside. This wasn't the kind of problem solved with shouting or calling the police. This was the kind of problem that escalated until someone paid, in money or blood, and suddenly everything made sense. The warnings, the anonymous messages, the stranger in the park. Someone wasn't trying to blackmail me, someone was trying to save me. I took a deep breath, stepped forward and opened the door just enough to see the two men standing outside. Both mid-40s, both stone-faced, both dressed too well to be street thugs. The kind that didn't throw punches unless they were paid to. "Evening," one of them said. "We're looking for Tariq." "I gathered," I replied. "He owes," the man said simply. "And he's run out of time." Behind me I could hear Tariq choking out, "Please, please, don't let them take me, please." I didn't turn around. "He's inside," I said. "Alive, unharmed, terrified, but that part is his own doing." The man nodded once. No rush, no anger. They weren't here for chaos, they were here for closure. "We'll take him," the man said. "And the debt ends tonight." I let that sentence settle in my bones. "The debt ends," I repeated, "but not here. You won't step into my home. You won't frighten my daughter any further. And you won't use my house as collateral for someone else's stupidity." The second man tilted his head. "Bold," he said. "You sure you want to talk terms?" "Yes," I said, "because I know something Tariq didn't. And what's that? I have nothing to lose." Behind me, Tariq whimpered. The first man adjusted his coat, studied me for several long seconds, then said, "Bring him out." I nodded, closed the door, walked back inside. Lena was on her knees beside Tariq, shaking him, crying, begging him to stand. He looked at me like a drowning man staring at dry land. "Raphael," he whispered, "please, don't let them." "Stand up," I said. He shook his head violently. I can't, they'll kill me." I crouched in front of him. "No," I said softly, "they won't kill you. You owe them. They want repayment, and they know better than to create a bigger problem than you already are." He stared at me, trembling. I added quietly, "And if they wanted you dead, they wouldn't have knocked." His breath hitched. Then I grabbed him by the arm, not harshly but firmly, lifted him to his feet and guided him toward the door. Lena clung to his other side. "Dad, please," she pleaded. "Dad, don't do this." I looked at her. "You did this," I said calmly, "not me." Then I opened the door. The men stepped forward, took Tariq from my grip and walked him toward the waiting car. Lena screamed his name, but they didn't look back. Tariq didn't fight. He didn't argue. He simply folded into the night like someone who knew this moment had been chasing him for years. The car drove off. Silence returned. Lena sank onto the porch steps, sobbing. I stood beside her but didn't touch her. After a long minute, she whispered, "Dad, what happens now?" I stared at the empty street, the quiet houses, the thin line between love and destruction. "Now?" I said. "Now I leave." She looked up, stunned. "But where will you go?" "Anywhere," I replied. "Everywhere. I have resources you never knew existed." She blinked, confused. And then I finally told her, "I've had $7 million tucked away for decades, and I'm done living like a guest in my own home." Her mouth fell open. I placed my hand gently on her shoulder. "You're my daughter," I said softly. "But you and Tariq made your choices, and now I'm making mine." I walked inside, grabbed my small suitcase, and stepped back onto the porch. Lena followed me, crying, apologizing, shaking, but I didn't look back. At 67 years old, I finally understood something. Some endings hurt, some endings heal, and some endings are simply overdue. I walked away, not bitter, not broken, just done. And for the first time in many years, I felt free. And if you've been listening this far, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.